This is Samurai Showdown, the NEOGEO Collection, which is a compilation of multiple games in the Samurai Showdown series. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 special, 5 perfect. And those are the entries within the series. We're going to show a little bit of each of them just so you get an idea of what they look like. I'll also note that there is a lovely museum area where you can dive deep into the history of the different games, which is kind of nice. They've got a lot of little, things and information released within this little package. It's actually quite a nice little historical thing if you are into this series. So you go into each individual character, you can see their concept art, their stage art, their background, their design. It's it's kind of cool to see this sort of thing be here, especially for those that are really interested in the series. You got interviews, the musical details behind the scenes. You can watch a pro match if you're into the more competitive aspects of this. So we're going to jump into each of the games just for a brief little bit so that you could see what they look like, because there's a lot of them here, right? So we're going to do arcade, kind of see the opening here, the classic style. You might be familiar with this, you might not be. It's a old school 2D fighter series, essentially, with a focus on certain elements of combat, but it does have some neat mechanics for, the style of play. So that's just kind of the opening there. Get the little button layout so you understand how to play, basic selection to characters at the beginning. Again, you could do this in arcade or in versus. We'll just play the main character here. We'll have a random one selected there for the arcade battle. So we got this guy. Great. So what we're going to do quickly is pause and show off some neat aspects. So you can actually save the game. You can also jump into the controls if you want to learn what the controls are like. So that's kind of neat, adjustments and stuff like that. You can also change the look of the screen. You could do a full, you could do wide, you can do original. It's always weird doing wide for these older games. I kind of liked it back in the day, but nowadays it's like, yeah, the original kind of looks better. You can also do filters, so you can kind of like get that older style going. And then you can do a bunch of different borders if that's your sort of thing. All these different options in regards to customizing the experience. And you see this across each of the individual titles. I thought it was important to kind of show this off quickly, just so you get a gist of, the customization settings that are present within this if you want to have them present. You can also do options from the main menu if you would like to basically change like difficulty settings and stuff like that. There's small tweaks, not a whole lot, but there are some to the point that I just wanted to mention it, as opposed to really diving deep into what it presents. So that was pretty cool. So if you're not familiar with this series, obviously you're seeing that it's a competitive fighter series, where you're sort of pulling off these, kind of combos and abilities in order to unleash attacks. It's got some neat kind of like weapons-driven sort of combative aspects too. And this is a series they brought back not too long ago. And it's just neat to see like a full compilation package available, because I believe the NEOGEO launches also did individual releases for this series too, which is kind of cool if that's your sort of thing, wanting to dive into those. But with that, we're going to quickly just show off a save game. We're going to make a save for this. The save date has been complete. And we're going to move off into, another level. Well, not another level, another game, right? So we got Samurai Showdown 2. Again, arcade versus. And I think it's going to be kind of neat to see the sort of transition between the visuals. It's weird that it didn't quite move entirely past the style of this. Usually you see these fighter games, they evolve a lot more than this, and I'm not hating on this at all. I'm just saying usually they try out different really different visual styles and aesthetics, but this one does seem to be largely a series that continues to be the same sort of design at its core, while just evolving things with new characters, new designs. Now obviously there's really quite a big difference in terms of the density, the environment, stuff like that. You might not see it, but it really does seem to be like quite a bit of a cleanup over the the first game. I think that's kind of cool. It's nice to see different abilities. A lot more screen flashing though in this one for whatever reason. I also like that there's a bit of a like you could tell like character damage or character hits. You know, you get that POW buildup, which is kind of cool. The POW system, and you're seeing my different moves kind of at the bottom there. It's neat. And I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm anything special or good at this at all to any extent, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea of, you know, kind of how each of them are running, how each of them look, so you get the context here. So I'm thinking if you're a fan of this series, you might very much be interested in what this package does provide in terms of all the different, you know, games that are present. You'd maybe want to get them all together as opposed to, you know, having to get them like bit by bit. So it's kind of nice that this is something that is present. And wow, lots of screen flashes on this one. It's kind of a little nuts, to be honest. They did that back in the day, but different standards for things, because usually you get a little bit more trouble having all these flashing lights nowadays. At least I think so. So we're gonna quit the game and we're gonna go to the next one. Again, keeping in mind, short pits, we've got a lot of these to go over. Again, arcade versus present here. So the third one, this is where we get the opening kind of violent note at the beginning, just so you are aware there. Again, a little tiny tutorial thing, so the characters kind of seems about the same as the last one, which is a bit weird. So you actually get like technique choice now, which is kind of neat. Again, it's kind of adjusted a little bit too in terms of the difficulty and style and everything like that. The evolution of the visuals to a degree in this one. And how they've changed the presentation and style of this, but very much on brand with what the past releases were. And I don't know if this is like a super weirdly niche series, but it was kind of like, yeah, you know, it popped up and like, oh, a full collection. I like to play these older collections for games. I find it, you know, kind of interesting from a historic standpoint to see them all together in a row. I think it's a little bit better for kind of making an appraisal of how like a series has changed over the years, getting them all in one little precise and concise package. It's kind of neat. And again, you know, it's that same simplistic style, but yet you can see that there's been this big kind of overhaul, not only to the menus and stuff like that, but also like the presentation and the style of gameplay here, the depth within the environment. And it's kind of cool to sit there and be like, okay, so this was like, you know, 93, 94, 95, you know, just as examples, and seeing these games like kind of fill into the different spots and how they kind of present within the legacy of the overall series. That's kind of neat. But I think, yeah, we got the conclusion there. It's a good time after we beat this guy down to a pulp that we jump into the next game. And if you're wondering why I keep picking the same character, there's an absolute point to that in regards to I want you to also see the difference between that character and between all of the releases, because I'm pretty sure that's like the title character of this, you know what I mean? Like, he's the main showcase of it. Samurai Showdown 4, Amakusa's Revenge, again, arcade or versus, 96 release there. Kind of cool, we're seeing the animated violence thing popping up, and that's going to be a thing for the rest of the series. A little bit of a new flashy opening, back into it, again, picking the button options. See, this is one where I think the roster of characters kind of expanded a lot. I also like the subtle animation, kind of when you wave over a character. I think that's pretty cool, at least in my opinion. I don't know. And then you get the mechanics. Again, you get the choices here for options, and then we get something that has more of a semblance, I guess you could say, as to a like story within here. I think that's kind of neat. The map set up, the evolution of that style, but again, very back to basic style of play. And then things have just greatly changed in regards to what's being presented for the particles and the details of the world. The UI has been adjusted. It's kind of neat. At least I think so. And again, we're just going to show off more of a fight and just kind of talk about it. I think they did a pretty good job with this package. It's kind of cool, you know, you got all these games. Ooh, little bits of blood there, pretty intense. So I think if you're like, you know, a fan of the franchise, you're probably going to be like, but fan of the franchise, you're probably like, oh wow, this is kind of like a must-play sort of thing in regards to having them all available at one spot. And I probably don't quite understand if there's any like smaller technicalities to, you know, the packages and stuff like that, because I'm not a hardcore fan. But I'm just trying to say, you know, they have them all here. They seem to all run very well. They all seem to generally perform greatly, you know, having all these additional extra settings that you can adjust on things. We'll switch over to another one because we are really rolling through on time. I thought I would time this a little bit better. So here is Samurai Showdown 5. Again, arcade versus being present here. And this seems to be the one that they kind of really evolved from, or really pushed forward. It must have been particularly big for the franchise. They usually do that when they do like a number of, you know, upgrades on the same number. That's usually meaning a good spot for them to upgrade from. So this one, again, even more of an expansion on characters. I noticed that back in the day, the rosters of games really seemed to, I don't know, is it fair to say, like, got bloated, and now we expect a ton of characters in games. And now that they seem to be scaling back on characters because the details and everything are ridiculous, you're like, oh, I wanted this one and this one, but yeah, it is neat how that works. Again, seeing this guy back in action, and seeing, I hope so, I hope I clicked right there, but yeah, seeing this like new environment style, it's changed, it's quite a little bit more polished, I think, you know, in terms of the looks of the characters and stuff like that. It seems to be more of a focused visual style. It's a little bit faster paced almost, you know what I mean? You just like see them kind of get a little bit quicker and quicker. Visibility still being there, the different options for attacking enemy players still all present. Ooh, wow, I got just absolutely slammed down there. And even the character designs, I think, are a little bit better here. Yeah, I don't know how we pulled that out, but still rolling. And just keep in mind, I'm showing little bits of each. We're really trying to keep this down in precise time so that you can see each of them and it doesn't go on, you know, forever in case you get like bored of seeing each of them in action, which some people might if this is like a bit more of a niche sort of offering, which is completely fair. Ooh, that big grapple. Alright, cool. And we're going to switch over to the next one because I think we still have 2 to go. So this is Special. Arcade or Versus, again, being present in this one for your choices of, you know, how you want to proceed in this. So you can't just battle against others. Again, fairly large roster of characters being present here. Jumping into the action. And even neater sort of style, but definitely similar to the last one to a degree. Yeah, lasting away. I like the dynamics of the stage here. And again, I don't get the full technical aspects of each of the individual entries to the highest degree that, you know, a huge fan of the series might. You might be able to pick out all the little tweaks and stuff like that. I'm just not that particularly hardcore, and I apologize for that, but I'm just trying to show it off, give you an idea of it. Yeah, victory, that's what I'm talking about. Making those big hits, making those big plays. Huzzah! Making the big damage. Jeez. That arrow is kind of a little bit annoying, isn't it? But I think with that, it's time to switch over to our next entry in this package, being Samurai Showdown 5 Perfect. Again, arcade versus. And this is the last one. So I think it's a nice package. I think for fans, you know, they're going to enjoy this. You're going to have a good time. You're going to work through all the different games if you want. Maybe you only have 1 or 2 that are favorites. You know, those options are present here. Again, we got this roster of characters, some little technical aspects, some different environments, a little bit of a discussion, the chat of the narrative. They're cool. It just is, it's kind of weird though, seeing this franchise not stagnate, but stay in this style as opposed to so many of the other releases over time for games that have, like, you know, fighting games gone all the way to from 2D to like 3D and, you know, even past that, and some of the visual styles, although you can't really go past 3D. But I just mean in terms of like the visual fidelity and the style, you know, kind of evolving with the times. I think it's interesting how this one did, but didn't necessarily change a whole lot. And that guy's got, is it called Poppy's the dog? I don't know. I think that was the name, something like that. But yeah, that's a look at the Samurai Shodown NEOGEO Collection package. Pretty cool. Kind of fun. Neat games. Something worth checking out if you're a fan of the series.